Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of B2B Live, where I speak with industry leaders who are actually revolutionizing their industry. They are talking about how you, as an entrepreneur, as a professional, how the connections that you're making, the collaborations and partnerships that you've created with other businesses, other people, how it can benefit you for the good, sometimes for the bad. So we get into all of that. Today, I have an incredible guest. Her name is Jacqueline Francis. She is a self-love coach, well, a self-image coach. And today we're going to have a really great discussion. It's called the connection between self-love and effective leadership. And this is a topic for you today in this season right now. And I say this because not only is it good, but because we need to understand how we perceive ourselves, how we look at ourselves, how that impacts our leadership. It impacts how we move in our day-to-day lives. It impacts and has the ripple effects in our families, our communities, our teams. And if we want to be game changers, if we want to make the shifts, and we need to make the shifts that's happening, we have to understand how we view ourselves, how we see ourselves beyond the boundary settings, beyond the meditations, beyond the I'm taking a class and I have a coach. It's you have to, what's going on in between my ears, that space in between your ears? Yeah, what's going on there? And what's going on in your heart? You know, that big muscle that's working 24 hours a day. We got to know what's going on there. So without further ado, please help me welcome Jacqueline to our live. Hi, Jacqueline. How are you?
Hey, how are you? Happy Wednesday. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm really excited because I truly believe that this conversation is a game changer, especially in the beginning of the year for entrepreneurs, for business owners, especially if they're overwhelmed, overworked, overburdened, or maybe they're feeling good about themselves, but they don't realize that there are parts unknown, maybe known, that may be impacting them in their leadership, in their business, in their home. So please share with us who you are, who you serve, and how you are positively impacting and influencing lives.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Francis, self image and transformation coach. I help people to uncover their self image by working on their limiting beliefs so they can gain more confidence and step into the greatest, grandest version of themselves. And it takes a lot sometimes when we have to look within to understand how we see ourselves. That is the foundation of self image. And I recommend a really good book to you guys called Psycho Cybernetics by a man named Dr. Maxwell Maltz. He is a founding leader in self image work. And he realized that we have this way, this perception that we hold of who we are and how we see ourselves. And being in a business or being on a team where you're helping other people, you have to understand that you bring something to the table. And if you are not able to fully accept and appreciate who you are and see yourself to a high standard, you're always going to be striving for something that you're never going to get. And we'll talk about that shortly.
So excited for this. I want you guys to know that as you're tuning in, we have a special announcement towards the end of the show. So stay tuned. There's that. And if for any reason, as we're having this discussion, you're tuned in, you have a question, perhaps you have a comment, maybe you want to share some insight. We welcome your comments. We welcome your insight so we can discuss it. So we want this session to be interactive. We want it to be engaging and fun for you as well as for us, right? Because this is where it goes. Jacqueline, before we get started, I want us to take us back on this journey. You're a seasoned woman, right? Yeah, you're not, yeah, seasoned.
That's
Yeah,
right. No
yeah.
fresh spring chicken here.
Well, that's okay. You're still a fresh spring chicken, but you've lived, right? You've lived. I've lived. We've lived. We've seen things in our life, and we've experienced things. And sometimes in life, if we don't address it, and we don't know, more importantly, who we are, it becomes very easy for us to be like angry, um, bitter, sad, pain, and we don't fully understand and or recognize this is how we may or may not be feeling, and or why, right? And so we'll do and do all the things that we think will help us get to this next level, when what we need to get to that next level is tapping into our self-love. So I want to know, you mentioned the book. So I want to know, how did you get to this place where you recognized self-love is exactly what you need to get to that next level? And then beyond that, beyond the selfish part of like, man, I got to transform myself, you're saying, I need to help humanity. I want to work with my person, my ideal client, to help them as well, which is people, right?
Yeah.
To help them transform.
I've been there. I was once, you know, life was good, right? Like, I mean, there was nothing to complain about, but there was always this feeling of wanting more, never knowing how I can achieve that, never feeling good about myself, not having a lot of confidence in who I was. And that beats down on you after a while. And you have all of these thoughts going through your head. Am I good enough? Am I worthy of this? And a lot of these terms that I use now, I didn't even know about before. I was just living day to day, wanting more, knowing that there was more out there for me, but just not knowing how to get there. Self love, I didn't even know what that was a few years ago. I did not know that we need to fill our cups up first before we're able to pour into others. And they always say, right? Like when you hop on a plane, they tell you put your oxygen mask on first. That was just something it was just a procedure, a protocol that was given to me until I really started to understand that analogy, right? How can you be better for others if you do not love who you are? If you do not love your journey and every chapter of your life that you've been through, good and bad.
How is self-love and self-care either different or the same? Because it sounds to me that some of the things that you're saying, people classify, they put it under self-care. But you are using self-love, in my opinion, from my understanding, in a different light. So how is that different?
Well, how's it different is like self love, the definition of that is really to have love for yourself, to
Mhm,
appreciate who you are, regardless of the things that you go through. And loving yourself through the ups and the downs, because it's easy to feel really good when we have accomplishments and when we are feeling like, really amazing about something that's happened. But can we love ourselves through times that don't always feel so good?
mhm,
Are we self-blaming more than giving ourselves that self-compassion or that self-love to tell ourselves it's okay?
mhm,
There will always be another time. Don't worry, things are always working out for you. Instead of having that fear and that guilt of, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. And then you go into the spiral of self talk that does not serve or support you as you're becoming this incredible, either business owner or human in your life. Because when you start to talk negatively, and remember, we're always talking to ourselves constantly, right?
mhm,
What is the dialogue? And loving yourself means being able to turn that negative dialogue into positive dialogue. And it's
mhm,
not always like, hey, oh my gosh, you're amazing. We have to work to get there. But sometimes it's just like, hey, you know what? Go and take a break. Go and have a nap. Maybe you just need to stop doing what you're doing. Go for your break. Ask your boss, hey, you know what? I just need to take a break right now. Can you give me 10 minutes?
yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Or if you work for yourself, give yourself the grace to take 10 minutes, right? Um,
Yeah.
for anyone who's tuning in, this is a very important topic. We may not think of it. We may see it as soft skills. We might see it as, oh, I'll get to it. But
Mhm.
this is an essential. It's part of your foundation in any and everything that you're doing. How you see yourself, how you love yourself, where you're coming from. And I can share that when you start loving yourself, and in each season of your life, it becomes very, very different. In your 20s, you love yourself different. In your 30s, you love yourself different. In your 40s, there's so many transitions and things that are happening that it gets you to that next level. And getting to that next level, in this case, we're not talking about trying to climb a corporate ladder or trying to climb a particular financial status or realm. Getting to that next level is the evolution of your being, the evolution of your service, the
The evolution
evolution.
of you.
Yes, the evolution of you, perfectly stated. And I love that. And that's why this foundational piece is necessary. So if you're tuning in, thank you. Ask questions. We appreciate it. You mentioned that, well, one, you mentioned the evolution of you, which I think is so important. And thank you for sharing your definition of what self-love means and really breaking that stigma. How does self-love impact our results, our ROIs in, I'm going to start off with business. I want to highlight that because there are a lot of people who might not believe that self-love is going to impact that.
True. And you're right. And a lot of times we are now brought up in a society and a culture that it is very hustle and grind. You just go, 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 go. You are constantly in this masculine energy of doing all of the things. So there's no time for rest. You always hear those sayings, right? Like you work hard, play hard, or you have to grind to get to the top. You're never going to be able to achieve success unless you work really hard at it. Like even all those words sound really, there's very masculine energy around it. It's very harsh, even me saying it. But when you start to pour into yourself, you start to become a leader that like you have that confidence. You make decisions quickly and you are not afraid to be who you are, because let's bring this authenticity into the mix. You become authentic to what you do in the position that you hold. It shapes your leadership presence, right? Because there are leaders out here that they can run an amazing company, but are they good people to be around?
And that also impacts the results that they're going to get. Because you could
Yeah,
be
their
exceptionally
teams.
skilled. Yeah, you could be exceptionally skilled at what it is that you do. And you see this over and over again. There are people who are hired at major, massive international brands, corporations, and within 6 months, they're gone. And people
Yeah.
were thinking this person is going to transform the industry. This person is an innovator. This person is this, because perhaps their personality, perhaps how they view themselves, right? And we're also seeing a lot of the times those in the public eye, which is now almost everybody's in the public eye, they're talking and struggling about mental health. We're
Yes, right.
struggling and talking about the impacts and the effects of their leadership, of their business, of their life, with their family life. And so they can reach the highest heights and gain finance to some degree, but then they have to take that finance and re-put it back into all of these areas, into their health, into their family, into all of these things, because they have to like heal from things. And
Yeah.
so it was like, what's the point in making all of this money when I can't even enjoy with my family?
Right.
When
And
I
people
can't,
hear that from a
yeah,
lot of people that are very successful, that
yeah.
they make a lot of money, but they feel so unfulfilled. They're not happy. They missed out time with their kids growing up. And then what value does the money really have if you don't have your health, if you
Yeah,
don't have loved ones?
if you don't have loved ones. And so this is where now we're getting into the mental health aspect of self-love. How does our self-love impact our mental health? How does our and that mental as well as how is the mental health aspect impact our influence, impact our relationships? This is a
Oh,
long question that we're going to have a conversation
of
on.
course. Well, I mean, first of all, it's the emotional intelligence and resilience that we have, right? So people struggle with mental health because they are overworked, overstressed.
Mm,
It becomes, things that they've not taken care of when they, maybe have first been diagnosed or self-diagnosed or realized that something was off and just kept pushing through it. And when you understand who you are and you start pouring a little bit more back into yourself, you're not giving so much of your energy to everybody else. You start to take care of you first. And if you look at a lot of like very high powered leaders, like we don't know what they do behind closed doors. We know that they run multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar companies, but you don't tell me that Elon Musk does not get up and maybe meditate for like, 2 hours or an hour, or has his self-care routine, or Steve Jobs, or these women in these like really high positions. They focus on themselves first before they're able to step into the world and say, here I am. Jobs is very composed. He's very calm when he speaks, right?
Yeah.
That comes from him understanding who he is, detaching from the fear of judgment and criticism and rejection. Because this is another part of this mental health talk. When we fear criticism and we're always caring about what others think of us, how do we then show up? We worry constantly about being judged. I can't be myself because so-and-so is going to think X, Y, and Z of me. So how do we build the resilience to be okay with sometimes speaking up for what we feel is right in a workplace, in our homes, with friends, with family? We don't. We shut that communication down because we want to be liked. We don't want to step on toes because we feel that our voice isn't going to be heard and we're not valued. And so it creates turmoil within us. If you're not able to express emotionally how you feel about something, or give yourself the time and the space to just work through the emotions, it creates dis-ease in the body. It manifests into illnesses that all of a sudden your back's hurting one morning and you're like, where'd I get this back pain from? It just came out of nowhere. We don't relate the illness and the ailments to us feeling a certain way or not being able to express how we truly feel about a situation or about ourselves.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And there is a connection with that. You mentioned, for example, Steve Jobs and his disassociation with that. And he went through, and he shared this, like people are very aware of this, right? He went through like Buddhism, and he went through detachment, not to rely on the outcome. And that benefited him and helped him, because even if he made mistakes or things weren't turning out, he was hard on his staff. I mean, he was hard on them. That was just his personality. But they so believed in what he was doing, in his vision, in everything, that they would still put in the time. They wanted to be there. They wanted to learn. They wanted to be part of that greatness.
Of course, but then he also showed up in a way where he may have been, I mean, there's one thing to be hard on your employees because you want the best for them and you want the best outcome, but he's not showing up being rude to people or showing up where he's, ignoring. Like, I'm sure he has his style of being respectful yet stern on what he needs to be done. And that is, the skills of a true leader. In many sense, right? And I was in a mastermind one time, and we had some amazing, incredible leaders show up who ran multi-million-dollar businesses and came and talked to us about how they dealt with their staff, that they wanted an open door policy. Yet the employees knew, when you're coming into work, you leave your problems at the door. You come in here at your best. They prime their employees to feel their absolute best in the highest frequency possible, so they can show up and be happy, be engaged, follow through on what they're committed to do for that day.
Yes. But it takes, and exactly what you're saying, it takes priming them, right? They have to know, they have to be ready. And when you're coming into a company culture, it's a culture that's been established, that was created so that you can feel a particular way. One of the places that I worked when I was working in corporate, one of the best places in the world to work, it always made the top 10 like every year. And I loved, before I had my daughter, I loved working there. I thought it was absolutely incredible. They had, resources. My superiors were incredible human beings and thoughtful at the same time. They knew what they wanted and they were direct because I was working with um, VPs at that time,
Right.
and so the culture made all the difference. And you're absolutely correct. Showing up, I'm like, how can I give 100% when I
Yeah.
show up? How can I give 100%? And that makes a massive difference. Even now, I continue on my journey with I love continuous learning, and I not just for the sake of saying you know something or you have a degree or whatever. Like, not in that sense. I love learning because when I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm evolving, and it's beyond just the growing. It's also the implementation. How does this impact my life? How am I going to use this? How does it work? So in that sense, with my learning and growing, there is an expectation with the people that I work with that they should be learning and growing as well,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I don't want them to be stagnant. And the reason why I don't want them to be stagnant is because I'm going in different spaces, I'm meeting different people, I'm doing different things, and because of that, there are things that will come out of that, and that means that I need whoever's working with me to be ready. They need to be prepared. They need to be equipped. So if we need to pivot when I'm like in a split second,
Yeah.
they're not overwhelmed, stressed out, and
Yes,
overburdened. And that's a big
exactly.
part of it. And I think many people forget that, especially when you're working with teams, when you're working with people, you have to let people know exactly your expectation. This is what I expect. This
As
is
a
the
leader, as a business owner, 100%.
yeah.
100%.
This is what I expect. And at the same time, you have to care about them, how they see themselves. And so you see a lot of businesses now, they are investing in like in their policies for self, I'm using the word self-care, but to make sure, is there psychologists on staff, is there
Right.
finance people on staff, is there all of these people on staff, so that if you need help, it
Mhm.
is available to you.
Exactly. Because people understand now the importance of having employees that are feeling fulfilled, that they're in a position that makes them feel good. Because when
Yeah.
you come to work, right? I've been in jobs too where I hated my job. And it got to the point where when I knew Monday was coming, like I would physically get sick. My stomach would start hurting, my head would start hurting. Like you don't want people like that working at your company. But at the same time, what are you doing then to make me feel that way?
Right.
I'm still showing up and doing everything that, like, I don't want to just be there to do my job and go home.
Yeah.
You want to build a company culture where people are happy to be there. They're
Mhm.
excited to see you in the morning, to get their job done, to give their best to the customers that they're serving
Yes.
on
Yes.
your behalf.
100%. For all of you tuning in, thank you so much. Please know that we're here to answer any questions, provide some insight if you need, and stay tuned because there is a surprise at the end. Okay, we have a great surprise. I'm looking forward to this because I want to be able to use it for myself selfishly and share it with all of you. Um, I remember as you were bringing up, what do you bring? You brought up, being at a job, being at your workspace, and thinking like, you're praying for Friday,
Yeah.
and then you're like crying on the day of Monday. Like there's just
We've all been there.
we've all been there at one point. And I remember the first time I started, and I didn't associate this with self love at all, because I didn't know any better. I was like in my 20s at that time. But the thing is, I had to be where I was because I needed the finance
Of course,
to
you can
do
pay
it.
your
I
bills.
needed it. Like I was like, okay. And so I was reading a lot of books. As I mentioned, I do read a lot and study a lot and train a lot. And one of the things that got me up every morning, like I wasn't crying or praying for Friday, but like I had to change my attitude
Oh,
100%. Like the books I was starting to read, it helped me to shift my attitude to see the good in the
yes.
situation. And
Yes.
then a big part was me, I would just be like, sometimes I was like, oh, I don't want to go. Why am I going? And then I'll be like, I'm like, why are you doing this? I had to shift the self-talk to why
Yes.
am I
See how
doing
important that is? Because you could have fallen
this?
into, oh gosh, like we go down that path once we're like, oh, I don't want to be here. And then you're constant like, oh, 5 more minutes, I'm going to get there. Oh, what kind of a day am I going to have? Oh, I don't want to see so and so. You're right. But it takes like effort to stay stopped.
Yeah,
You can't go down that path, Delisa. Jacqueline,
yeah,
stop. You're going to have
that's
an
where it's at.
amazing day.
That's
And
right.
you learned that much earlier than I did in my life.
Yeah. Well, I had no other choice for me. Like, sometimes you're like, it's sad because you see some young people whose like life has just kicked them around like a football, right? Or soccer if you play soccer, wherever in the world you
Even
live.
even adults too,
Yeah,
right? Like
adults.
some
Like,
people, me and you understand this, but there's so many people that feel like they don't have a choice, that they don't know that they can switch their inner talk. They
they,
don't know that they can change the way that they view going into the work because your perception change. There's this quote that goes, when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at changes.
100%.
It's all perspective. You shifted your perspective. And that's where things felt easier when you had to go to work. So it wasn't a had to anymore. It was almost like, oh, I get to go to work.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And I would admit, like, I was a horrible leader in the beginning of my journey. I was horrible. No, I'm not. You're laughing. I was bad. I would yell. Like, now people don't yell anymore because it's called abuse and stuff like that. But
That's a different topic.
yeah, I would. And I haven't hidden from the fact that I was horrible, so that if
But you
anybody
didn't
wants,
know. You
yeah, but I
didn't
didn't
know
know.
any better.
I didn't know any better. I didn't know how to lead. I didn't know how to tap into the emotions because how I was trained by men, and I was trained how to lead from a masculine point of view. Now, men, don't get upset. I'm not saying that your way is wrong or bad. That works for you. But coming from a female perspective, how we lead is different. How we think is different. Like, there is a difference,
Yeah.
regardless of what anyone else says. There is a difference. And so I had to tap into within, like, how am I supposed to be leading? What is
Yes.
my strength, right? And a big part for women, that strength is the empathetic side. That
Yeah, it's
strength
that feminine
is,
energy. You're coming from ease and flow and a little bit of empathy.
yes, it goes a long way. And communication. A lot
Yeah.
of people are like, oh, women talk a lot. Well, we're trying
Would
to
believe
get
it
the
for
answer
that.
here.
We know how to communicate to a certain
Yeah,
degree.
yeah,
Some
yes.
women, most
Yeah. But it's because we want to understand, what are you feeling? What are your
yes,
thoughts? What's going on? So I had to learn effective communication
right.
instead
Effective
of like
leaders know how to effectively communicate.
communicate. Right. So I had to learn all of these things, which helped me become better.
Yeah.
And I found that as I started to grow, now your part on self-love, the part on self-love, I had to start looking at myself. How did I view myself?
Yeah.
And I had to go through the process of releasing hurt, pain, sadness,
Yes.
like
Yes.
that I didn't even realize that I was harboring, but I was releasing the energy through my fitness. Because I was working out like 3 hours a day, right? Like an hour in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, or something like that. Like, it was just crazy. But I was in great shape though. But
Yeah.
that is what I was using it unconsciously. Now, my question for you is: can you give us 3 tips that we can start using right now in our lives to help us become effective leaders while also loving ourselves?
Okay. Number one, set some boundaries.
Ooh,
Healthy boundaries are important. Know how to shut off your phone at a certain time and say, okay, 7 o'clock, that's it, I'm done. I'm not looking at my emails at 10:30, 11:59. Okay. Number two, have a vision for your life. Have clarity. And that was my word of 2025 is get clarity around what it is that you want to bring to your business, to your employees, how you want to show up as a leader. So maybe you want to write that out. Maybe you want to, once you have that written out, create like a declaration of that vision. Have it in front of you so you can see it where you're working. So it's always at the forefront. And lead by example. How do you expect your employees to show up at their best if you're not showing up as your best? If you're being late, if you are rude to other people, inspire others. So that way you are now creating this, like, you're creating this funnel where other people are coming in to it, and they are now going and leading by example. That kindness that you show to them spirals.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps going. And when
Mm-hmm.
people see that you can trust yourself and then you can make confident decisions, and one more point, take ownership. This is huge.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know how to take ownership for decisions, for things that they do in their lives, in their workplaces, period. So take ownership, because you become so much more impactful as a human, as a great leader, when you're able to do that.
I love it. I love it. You talked about setting boundaries. We have borders and boundaries within ourselves, energetically, physically, all of these things. And I'm going to highlight these again because I really want to touch on this. I want you guys to fully digest and understand this, because what she said is not to be taken lightly and is not buzzwords. Okay. Set boundaries within yourself. You have borders and boundaries that you must take territory and responsibility over. That territory means that you have a sphere of influence, either in your home, in your workspace, because you are influencing people every day. You are influencing others. And so if you do not have boundaries and you start letting all kind of things come in, what you end up with is not a clean cup of water, but you start getting clean, you start getting dirty, and it's a hot mess. It's a hot mess.
Messy.
It becomes messy, and that's not a good thing. So remember to patrol. Military words. I was in the military. Patrol the borders and the boundaries in your sphere of influence, because it is necessary. The other part you mentioned was having vision and clarity. There's an old proverb that says, "My people perish for lack of vision." The people perish for lack of vision. If you don't have vision, if you don't have clarity, you have zero clue of where to go. It is a fact. Absolute fact. And so you don't want to perish. And when we say perish, we're not talking anything like, we're talking on all levels here. Spiritually, if you have no vision, where are you going? Physically, if you have no vision, how can you put your hands to work?
Right.
How can your feet start walking and moving and advancing and taking over territories, right? Taking over space. You can't do that if you do not have clarity, if you do not have vision. And yes, I am using military terms because when I get excited and things things work, it just the military part comes out. Okay. The next part you mentioned was inspiration, to inspire others, to inspire me to be in spirit. Okay. Yes. When you're in spirit, you're connected to what's real, right? Because you're taking from there and you're bringing it into this 3D world, in this earth realm, into the physical realm, right? So you have to have that in your mind, in your heart. You have to already be so connected and aligned. You have to know what your next step is so that you are inspired. And that comes from being in spirit.
Yes.
It's not mumbo jumbo stuff here. All right. This is facts. And you talk to anybody and any stuff, it's there. All right. And so that's where the inspiration comes. Going back to the borders and the boundaries that you have.
Yes. They're all connected.
They're all connected. Right. So once you become inspired, once you're in spirit, other people in your sphere of influence becomes inspired. And then, especially if you have a business, if you have a product or service, or even if you're a professional in industry, your light so shines before men that they cannot help but have their light shine too. And so this
Yes.
is where we start seeing speedy promotions. This is where we start seeing people recommending you. This is where we start seeing, I don't know you, but you know what? My friend Sarah has worked with you or came to your session or was at a networking event, and she said that I had to connect with you.
Exactly.
Right? And this
Right.
person you would have never have met, probably never have met on, because whoever was in your sphere of influence, you've inspired them, that they've opened up their network, they've leveraged their network to you, right? So that you can advance and start taking over territories, right? In a positive way. Um,
Well,
and then
this is all so golden. I hope people are taking notes.
they should be taking notes, because, and this is what you said. And so, like, I'm just trying to fortify it here because it's so important. And then the last piece you mentioned was ownership. You have to take accountability for your actions, good and bad. I've made terrible decisions in my life, and it sucked. I've done things where I was like, man, I need mercy. Yes. Like, show mercy.
For sure, right?
You
Yeah,
know, forgive me, right? I had to say forgive
right.
me. And because maybe we made terrible decisions, maybe in our own selfish ways. And I've been selfish. I'm not gonna lie and hide it.
We're human.
We're human. It happens, right? But that comes from taking the ownership and taking the accountability and saying, you know what, I was wrong. I
Yes.
didn't, I was wrong. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you so much for
Oh my God,
sharing.
it's amazing. Because you know what? It's easy to say that person made me do it. It's
Mhm,
easy to blame things outside of us instead of looking within. And
mhm,
again, we talked about growth. Growth happens in the dark.
yeah,
Growth happens when you go within and you say, how am I responsible for this?
mhm,
Because
mhm.
I can't always be blaming other people. They
No.
didn't know any better. I can't expect them to know more than what I need to know about
Yeah.
me and my choices. And sometimes when things show up in our life that we do not want, because we don't always know the next step.
Mhm.
And then things show up and we're like, oh man, but I've been trying so hard. Why is this happening?
Right.
It's showing up to show you to pivot, to show you what you do not want, so that way you will know what you do want.
Yeah. And sometimes it could just be exactly show, not only just showing up there, but it's that trial. We all have to go through trials. We
Oh,
all have to go through challenges. Alex Hamosi, yeah,
yeah.
like him, great example. You may like or may not like him. You may not like his methodology of how he works or his system, but when he started off, him and his wife at the time, he failed. How many times? He succeeded and then failed. And then he went through all of that and he lived in his car. He was essentially homeless. She stuck with him, but he just so held on. And even in the midst of those challenges, he pivoted. Okay, he
Right,
tweaked all the things. What do
right.
I need to do? Where am I going to go? And then boom, all of a sudden he started the gym. All of a sudden there's this. Now you see him everywhere.
Yeah, because he didn't give up on his vision.
Yeah.
And remember, when you have a vision for your life, for your business, for your company, that vision was given to you.
Mhm,
There are things that we cannot see. When ideas come to us, they're coming to us, to you, particularly for a reason,
mhm,
because there's something within you that needs to grow and expand. And this idea is going to help you to do that. But
mhm,
as humans, we want to take things the easy way. When
mhm,
things don't go our way, we want to give it up.
mhm,
Oh, it wasn't for me. Why would I get this dumb idea? Oh, Billy Bob Joe told me that this is silly, that I should just go get a regular job.
mhm.
Think about all the people that if they went to get regular jobs, we would not have the light bulb. Maybe wouldn't have a TV to watch, that
Mhm.
followed their vision and followed their dreams.
They followed it, yeah, and they stayed the course in the midst of
Regardless.
failure, right?
Exactly.
They stayed the course and they had support. What sort of, as we're starting to wrap up here, what does support look like when it comes to self-love? Um,
Reaching out. Sorry, I had to answer this right
yeah,
off because it's
yeah,
just coming
love
through.
it.
Seeking support. getting guidance, whether you go to church, whether you have a religious background that you can look into, being a part of a community that can support you in advancing your life. Because as much as family and friends are and can be our biggest supporters, they are not where you are going. So you want to get into communities of like-minded people that have already been there, that are doing the thing that you want to do, because they're not going to be the ones to put you down. They're going to be the ones cheering you on, regardless of the journey that you're on. Get a coach, get a mentor. Right now, we have so many resources with access to the internet, YouTube videos. You can literally Google anything. ChatGPT and AI is the next advancement right now. I don't know how many people might be using ChatGPT, but it will literally give you anything you ask for. So there are resources and support systems out there. Utilize them. They are here not for just to look pretty. Coaches are out there to help advance and guide you, because we all have our blind spots. I have a coach because there are things that I cannot see that I think I'm doing amazing and wonderful. But when they point something out, you're like, oh, yeah, that could be why. But the blinders we're on, until we have the awareness that often comes when we work with other people, when people mirror, other people are also a mirror to us, that we look within and say, okay, yes, this is something I would love to work on and change. So lots
Love
of
it.
support out there.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. You've given us some great tips. You have shared so much with us. Um, for the rest of 2025, this might be a tough, not really a tough question, but it might take a moment to pause there. What are 5 things we can do to help us increase our self-love to become effective leaders in 2025?
Okay. Take some time for yourself. If it's 10 minutes a day where you are sitting and doing either absolutely nothing or you're just reading a book, but start to get into your parasympathetic nervous system and knowing and allow your body to know what it feels like to be in a calm state. There's so much in our lives right now that demand so much out of us that we're constantly on the go and we're constantly living in stress. Not good. Number two, right? Do something that you love, whether it's each week, each day. Find that what supports you the best, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's going to the spa, whether it's just hanging out with some friends, whether it's just watching a movie by yourself. Okay. Number three, eat a healthy, balanced meal. Nutrition and health is important. Take those vitamins when you can, drink that protein shake when you can, and make sure you're moving your body every single day. How do you expect to get your energy, that stagnant energy out of you, if you're constantly just sitting at your desk, then you're going in your car and you're sitting for an hour while you go to work, then you go home and then you're sitting down again and then you go to bed? How do you release the stagnant energy from the day, from the week, from the month? Move your body. And it doesn't necessarily have to be going to the gym. You
Mhm.
could put on a song and go dance. You could go dancing on the weekend with your partner or with some friends. Just move your body every single day. I would say number four is find a mentor or find, material that you can read to start building more information in your mind. You don't want to, be bombarded with too much. I know there's Instagram, Facebook, all
Mhm.
those things, but scale it back. Go back to the book. Read something that's going to move you along. Read something that you're interested in that will get the mind working. Because if we're not building that muscle, if we're not growing and advancing, we're slowly dying.
Mhm.
Number five, I would say for definitely self-love, try to journal. I think it's so useful for getting your thoughts out on paper, solidifying them. Sometimes, whether it's your dreams, whether it's your fears, it makes the energy within you dissipate because now you're putting it down on paper. It's coming out of you. Sometimes it's a bit of a release practice, right? And once you start to kind of work on that and you're like, okay, all these things that I fear, you feel good right? And then you take that a little further and start writing out what you would love for your life. What would you like 2025 to look like for you? Let's say it's December. Write out some things that you've already accomplished before they've happened. Start to get into the visioning of your life. And one more thing that I'm going to share that I think is so important: learn to forgive yourself. Forgive, we always want to forgive other people for things, but what about yourself? Start to release some of that energy of holding on to things that do not serve you. And we do that by forgiving ourselves.
It's awesome. Thank you so much. In these times, our community is so important. Your community is important. It could be your physical community of where you're living, or the community of people that you choose. Make an intentional decision to be around, to be able to support you on your journey, to help you connect, and to help you build up the self-love, the self-acceptance within, which helps you become better leaders. I know personally, last year I started really connecting out with in different networks, and not just that, but expanding my network,
Yes.
because
Beautiful.
it was and being intentional in the network that I choose to be
Yes.
in. And that makes a massive difference, being in a network that I choose to be in, because then I'm surrounded by like-minded individuals who support me, empower what we're doing, encourage me, as well as they have connections as well that can introduce me to
Yeah.
other people, which
But
makes
you
sense
want to
as
be
well.
there. You didn't join a
Yes.
community because you felt like, oh, my friend's asking me to join, so you felt guilty
No.
for not joining,
No,
right?
I do it because I want to be there. I do it because I see the reciprocity of
Oh, beautiful.
myself being there, and as well as not only what I will receive, but what I can give. It's
Yes.
that exchange of giving and receiving, and what is that value? People don't necessarily look at the value; they just thinking selfishly, and that means that the things that I'm doing as I'm speaking on community, as I'm speaking on it, it just fortifies that you cannot do it. It's just harder when you do it alone. And who
Of
wants to do
course.
that?
We
You know?
can't do anything alone. It
No,
doesn't work
like,
that way.
yeah, we don't want to do that. And we want to be engaged, and we want to be around the people, because remember, this is a generational thing. It's a legacy that you're continuing on, because the community that you're building and that you're in, your children, they're growing up in that community, right?
Yeah.
They're meeting the same people, their kids. So they're around like-minded people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so as they grow and expand and they get into whatever it is that they're getting into, oh, mentor, they don't need to go outside to try to find somebody. There's a mentor in the group that
Yes.
has been kind of mentoring along the way, because maybe they're in finance, maybe they're in business, maybe they're in some in a trade, for example. And so they're receiving from the table right then, because they're all sitting together, right? Or
Right
sitting
there.
together. They're
Mhm.
learning. Or if your kids are not there, maybe when you go back to your dinner table and you're having a conversation, you're going to be sharing what you're learning, right? So they're getting
Exactly.
mentorship. And guess what? As they grow up, the people in their sphere of influence, their friends, now it's multiplied, it's increased, and that impacts the kids in their sphere of influence, the parents of those children.
Yes.
I'm showing you guys the ripple effects of the self-love, of how
Yes.
that ties into your leadership style. And I'm also sharing the benefits of the community that Jacqueline is saying. And so now, in saying that, Jacqueline, I hear you have something super special for us, and I want to know what it is.
Yes. So I have this incredible guide for self-love, and I give you 4 amazing tips and tools that you can implement right now every single day. So I have this in a PDF form. It is free for you guys to use, and this is perfect. Today's the 12th. It's actually my son's birthday, so we're going to be celebrating later today. And we're 2 days away from Valentine's Day. And, growing up, I always, you hear Valentine's Day. You got to like love everyone and love your partner and give love out, but, give love to yourself.
Mhm.
This is my gift to you, so you can find that. And, you can find the self-love, you can create it, you can expand on it, and just have the tools to be able to go down this journey. Because as Delisa, as you were saying, when you expand your circle of influence and you expand who you are as a human, you give that to your children. They see that, your parents were open-minded about things. They see that, they didn't have a certain way or style where restricted them. They were open. They cared about your feelings, and it all comes from how you take care of yourself.
100%. Well, I'm looking forward to this guide. I cannot wait to see this guide. Connect with Jacqueline. Follow along on LinkedIn, Instagram. She's more faster on Instagram. I will admit that she's faster on Instagram, the Facebook, and on all the channels. And of course, download this resource. Don't worry, it will be in. I'll put it in the caption.
Can you see it? I just sent it.
Where did you send it?
Okay.
That's okay. Just send it to me, and then because when I type in when I fix the caption, I'll make sure to include it.
I love it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, don't worry about it, so that people can receive it. And you know what? If they want to, let's see. For this free gift, they have to do me like I want it, or maybe like put in something in the comments so we know that, hey, Jacqueline is going to get in contact with you.
Yeah, put in some self-love.
Yeah. Oh, self-love. So use the word self-love in the comment so Jacqueline can connect with you, and then send over that send over her free gift. Yeah. Have an incredible day, Jacqueline. I want to thank you for being my guest today. Thank you so much. Have an incredible day, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. And don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Type in self-love. Get your free gift, not just for Valentine's Day, but for 2025.
Yeah, for you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.